Okay, today this is a short video and it's about self-pity. And a lot is misunderstood through childhood trauma, that in society, a lot of belief systems would have us believe that we just let go and get over things. But with complex PTSD, it's not that simple due to many things that we've been through as children. We can basically end up with a multitude of things that we need to work through. And there are a lot of beliefs that go around that are not helpful, like you just let go, or you forgive, or you just forget. And it's not that easy if your early imprints have been so ingrained into you, where if you've been mistreated, you've not been able to grieve it or cry as a child or have the normal healthy feelings a child has. For instance, a child, when it's very small, it's first no, like, when a child is sovereign, but sometimes there's this ownership idea going on with children. Clearly, children need to be taken care of and they need to be given guidance, but with abuse, it's often that so much is overlooked, and as adults we don't see how badly we were treated, so we miss out on a lot of our natural development. And one of them would be where, if we're being abused naturally, we would use the words no, don't do that. But as a child, you don't have that ability to be able to even understand what's going on or say no, but you may feel a lot of toxic shame and so forth. So I'm just going to run through a short little video and a couple of slides that are going to give you an idea. This is from Pete Walker's website. Pete Walker wrote a book, which I'll show you at the end, which is Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. And he's also got a web page, and the details would be pete_walker.com. So you can go and have a look at that web page and see some of his writings there also. He's a brilliant man who understands this subject fully. It's one of the best books that I've come across myself, and that was very helpful in my own healing process, which is an ongoing process. Nothing's, written in stone. It's like once we understand and we've got the psychoeducation, we can begin to evolve the pain which we were given as children. So here, this is Recovery and Self-Pity, and he says that it was published in Recovering the Adventure of Life Beyond Addiction. So I'm going to read these couple of slides. I am often saddened when I hear adult children parrot the conventional wisdom that it is bad to feel sorry for yourself. This so-called wisdom shames people out of normal, healthy self-pity. Everyone needs to occasionally feel sorry for themselves. Tears for the self are some of the most potently healing experiences of recovery. Self-pity in balance and moderation is extremely healing. Recovery, in fact, is often very limited until there are profound experiences of feeling sorry for the self. So I'll stop at that point and explain that if we've not been able to grieve, then we've got all of these feelings inside of us, and how we cope with that as adults that have been through abuse as a child is through disassociation. And also, we also have the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, which goes on. Those are called the 4 Fs, and it's a response to trauma. And it's a way that we then enact that out as an adult when we're in certain situations because we don't feel safe. And we actually have something called arrested development. It's where our natural responses have not been able to develop fully because of early mistreatment. I'm going to continue reading. So self-pity in balanced moderation is the miraculously releasing gift of self-sorrowing. Self-sorrowing is one of the most beautiful and restorative of emotional experiences. There is nothing in the world more centering than a good, unabashed cry about one's troubles. Nothing dissolves the awful abandonment pain of the inner child like a good cry for the self. This is especially true when the adult child images back himself or herself back in the past, tenderly comforting his crying inner child. So you might feel that when you get a buildup of emotion and then you have a good, cry about it and you feel sorry for yourself, that you feel much better afterwards. And clearly we can't force those tears. They come when they come. But the most important thing is that when they do, we don't have people around us shaming us for grieving and crying and self-sorrowing, and that we don't do that to ourselves, that we bond with our inner child and that we begin to give that child the love and the respect and the honor and of those tears. Reading on, self-pity is only dysfunctional when it is excessive. This is sometimes seen in people who spend extreme amounts of time feeling sorry for themselves. Although long periods of self-pity can be healthy in some phases of recovery, it is possible to get stuck in and addicted to self-pity. This is sometimes the case with the long-term recovery who does nothing effective to recover the losses of her childhood. She may become so disempoweringly lost in self-pity that she never acts to change abusive or neglectful situations. This kind of excessive self-pity usually looks so dysfunctional that it may even alienate others from healthy and moderate self-pity in an all or none kind of way. Self-pity, however, is not a black and white issue. We do not need to throw out the baby of self-compassion with the bathwater of excessive self-pity. So we can monitor that ourselves. We know when we need help. And, you know, for me, I had to take about 2 years out after having a bit of a breakdown. I reached a point where all of my past caught up with me, all of the pain, it all hit me all at once. And I literally, you know, for a year, I was under the duvet cover. I just had to stay away from the world and I needed to grieve. And that period of time sent me forward in, you know, I took a big leap forward after taking that time out. And not all of us have, you know, the time to take out. So sometimes life will force that upon us. What I've got here is the next slide. So crying for the self is especially therapeutic when old pain resurfaces from unresolved trauma. The average dysfunctional family leaves its survivors with lifelong tendencies to flash back on some occasions into shame, fear, and emptiness. Unashamed crying can often resolve and work through the pain of such experiences. It is a sad statement about our culture that we have no positive term for the healthy side of self-pity. We are praised as compassionate when we feel sorry for others, but there is no corresponding term for the feeling sorry for ourselves. Little wonder we are so codependent. Society's taboo against self-pity offers us no choice but to limit our compassion to only caring about the pain of others. So, you know, it's okay to care for our own pain, and it's okay to have those tears. Absolutely necessary to work through to the other side of trauma and, you know, to heal. We need to resist those who toxically shame us for being on the pity pot. Whenever we express normal sadness about our painful life experiences, this is true whether they are past or present. Our recovery can only be aided by the rejection of this pervasive social indoctrination against self-pity. We must refuse to accept the nonsense that it is only good to feel sorry for others, but not for ourselves. We must strive to reclaim ourselves, the potent healing tool of sometimes feeling sorry and sorrow for ourselves. You know, and what we're going through at the moment in society as well, you know, the COVID, and then we had the other incidents that have taken place in the world and people have lost their jobs, and that, you know, it's okay for us to feel sad and sadness and to have people to speak to. A lot of people turn inward and they don't know where to go because when we speak to others, they want to shut us down. So reading on, unfortunately, the right and need to feel sorrow for ourselves can be very difficult to recover. Most of us have been thoroughly brainwashed against self-compassion by our parents and the wider society. Many of us also have this shaming of self-compassion reinforced by the religion that we were raised in. Consequently, many survivors have come to believe that self-pity is some awful sin. And I add there, it is not a sin to feel for yourself. Believe that to be the truth. Rather than the precious gift that it is, some adult children may be helped to reclaim their self-compassion by remembering that even Jesus felt sorry for himself. He modeled the positive side of self-pity when he wept in the garden and on the cross. So you might recall that story. So unless the survivor of the dysfunctional family feels unashamed sorrow for the child she or he was, she or he will never understand the magnitude of what she or he lost. Crying for the inner child and her losses from poor parenting often spontaneously awakens a heartfelt desire to compassionately remother herself. And that's also, you know, refathering and remothering ourselves. And Pete Walker talks on this. Tears of self-compassion can also motivate our efforts to give our inner children the unconditional love that they so eminently deserve, that was so unfairly withheld from them. Tears for the child can often also spontaneously awaken a desire to champion and refather our inner children, to protest unfair treatment, and to protect them from abuse. So how this plays out, once you connect in with that inner child and you have these feelings and those tears, then you stop allowing other people to abuse you. It's like you're reparenting yourself. You're saying, no, you can't abuse my inner child. So it's a whole way of self-protection and self-love. Compassionate crying for self can also create deep bodily based feelings of peace and relaxation. Balanced self-sorrowing often fosters a miraculous rebirth of the heart from the death of the obsessing mind. Healthy self-pity increases an individual's experience of being heart-centered. As such, it often nurtures an inner softening that attracts real experiences of human love. And I have to say, there is human love out there in this world, and we can love ourselves as well. But when we understand that, we do soften and we can be easier at receiving true, authentic love from others. Also, he adds, as much as I can welcome myself in sadness, that much I can thoroughly welcome and receive another. Most of us must fight very hard to recover the right to self-sorrow. This hard-won right will hopefully never be given up or outgrown. We must always have a special place in our hearts for feeling sorry for ourselves. So you see at the bottom of the page here, Pete Walker, pete/walker.com, recovery self-pity. So you go to that page and you'll find it. And this is the book that you're going to look at. If you get a copy, it's going to take you leaps and bounds forward from your, whether it be sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, or all three of them sometimes people have had. It's horrendous what goes on in this world. But, we're going to break through the other side by psychoeducation. I'm also here to help people. I give sessions on talking about this stuff. And I have a disclaimer. You'll see it on below in my YouTube video here below the content. And then remember, we're here to bloom. Here's a beautiful flower, and that is what we're here to do. We're here to bloom. We're not here to live in this pity and sorrow forever, but we do need a period of time where we're allowing ourselves to break free of the past and the trauma that we were so sadly had to experience. Okay, that's it. I'm ending it there, and I'll be back tomorrow with something else. Catch you later.